Right, so I'm back with another video, and this time it's not a rebuild and it's not the Galatasaray episodes. Of course, they're still gonna be going on. I found a little bit more time just because I had a little bit of time off from school. I had spring break, hence why I was able to record a little bit more and upload a little bit more. We're back to kind of our regular schedule, but of course, within the actual world of soccer, the real world of football, we have the Champions League coming up. Of course, the Champions League quarterfinals is coming up, and precious Barca is, of course, in it, facing this team up here, Borussia Dortmund, and not to mention Inter Milan are also playing in the semifinals. Sorry, quarterfinals, who could potentially face Barcelona in the semifinals if both teams were to go through. But with that being said, let's just hop straight into basically my quarterfinal predictions. We're going to go game by game, just the quarterfinals. We're not going to go even further than that. But let's start off with the first game that I'm going to be talking about is actually the main one for me, at least the one that I know for a fact I'm going to be watching, is Barcelona versus Dortmund. Like I mentioned, they are facing in the quarterfinals. The first game is at the Montjuic, which is Barcelona's home stadium for this season, and then the second one is at Signal Iduna Park, which is of course Borussia Dortmund's home stadium. And I wanted to wait. I waited to make these predictions because I'm recording this literally the Saturday after all the quarterfinalists have played all their games, and Barcelona, they got a draw. They didn't lose, but it felt like a loss, at least to me, up against Real Betis. Don't get me wrong, Real Betis are an amazing side. I mean, they're one of the most informed sides right now, especially in La Liga, and facing up another very informed team like Barcelona this season. It's insane that it was a draw. It was 1-1. Gavi got his goal, and then I believe it was Nathan, the center back of Real Betis, who got the goal for them, and it just stayed that way. Unfortunately, it was very unfortunate for Barcelona. I feel that Real Betis actually put on a very good defensive performance. Barcelona had a few chances. They were a lot of them were mostly half chances. Lamine Yamal wasn't really on it. His final decision making wasn't really there. Rafinha did not play as much. He only played, I believe, the final 30 minutes, if that, even if that. But not to mention all the other players that, of course, we have our injuries, but still, we should have got the win. But obviously we didn't. We picked up a point, but hopefully it'll kind of spur us on to, do a decent job in the first leg up against Dortmund, because Dortmund, they have been struggling in Bundesliga, and even in the Champions League, they haven't been complete amazing form. They were able to knock out Lille in the last round, but it wasn't that convincing. They did grab a win today. They grabbed a 4-1 win away from home against Freiburg. Freiburg are actually above them in the league table, which is crazy because I actually love Freiburg. Freiburg are an amazing team, but Dortmund have a lot of talent. They have a lot of good players who can score a lot of goals. Dortmund is capable of scoring a lot of goals, but it depends whether or not they are on their day. I mean, they have their new manager, Niko Kovac, and of course they're still trying to find their form. They're still trying to make sure that they're decent, but the main thing about them is the fact that their defensive line is not so great. That's the main issue with them. Defensively, they're not so great. And up against a solid attack like Barcelona, I think they're going to struggle. I mean, I know Barcelona's also going to struggle. It's not going to be an easy game whatsoever, but I do see Barcelona progressing. Obviously, I'm biased, hence why I wanted to do this game first, but I do have Barcelona going through, and I'm sorry that I ranted so much about the Barcelona game. It was just something on my mind, but of course, I do have FC Barcelona going through. It's going to be a tough challenge. I think first leg, these scores are just honestly right now what I'm guessing, but I'm saying a 1-0. Oh, actually no. I'm gonna say 3-1 to Barcelona in the first leg, so we're at home, and away from home, I'm gonna say 3-2. I think there's gonna be a lot of goals across the two legs. Honestly, I could see even more goals than that, but I'm gonna go 3-1 and 3-2 victory for Barcelona across both legs. Yeah. Moving on to a less stressful one now. We are going PSG versus Aston Villa. I know I'm going all over the place, but don't worry about it. We will get to all the games. But anyways, PSG versus Aston Villa. Both teams were actually able to get a victory in their league. PSG grounded out a 1-0 victory with a Desiree Doué goal winner. and I believe Aston Villa won 2-1. I can't remember exactly who they faced, but they did win 2-1. Both of them narrow victories, and honestly, in the Champions League, it's been difficult for both of them. Aston Villa has honestly proven to be a worthy side to be in the quarterfinals. I don't think anybody should be surprised. I know they're a bit of a dark horse. They are the dark horse of this tournament, to be honest. But I mean, they beat out Club Brugge. They beat out everybody else. I mean, they beat Bayern in the league phase out. They were solid. But of course, they don't have another man, John Duran. But they do have Monaco Asensio, who's fit and firing. Not to mention Marcus Rashford, who's also picked up some form. And of course, their main talisman, at least in my opinion, is Morgan Rogers this season. He's been phenomenal for Aston Villa. But also under the tutelage of Unai Emery, who used to manage PSG. It's another whole storyline. Not to mention Marco Asensio, who is literally contracted to PSG and is just loaned out to Aston Villa. Too many storylines to talk about in that one. But of course, PSG is not a team to be trifled with this season. Despite losing Mbappe, Messi, Neymar, all across a few transfer windows, and yet they still have such a solid team with the likes of Ousmane Dembele, who's honestly, as much as it kind of pains me to say this, he's been in fine form. And then, of course, Desiree Doué, who's just a youngster, yet he's killing it for PSG. And then Kavica Kvaratskhelia, who they just signed in the January transfer window. This is a star-studded team. Not even mention Bradley Barcola. I'm not the hugest fan of him, but he is a very good player. And then, of course, Vitinha. Sorry, there's so many great players that I can talk about for PSG, and honestly, Aston Villa as well. It's a difficult choice to make and a difficult prediction to make. I can definitely see either side going through. Aston Villa is obviously a little bit of the dark horse. It would be an upset if they were to progress, but I am going to go for PSG. I am going to go for the safer option. I think PSG are one of the best teams in Europe right now, arguably the second best, just behind Barcelona as of this moment. Throughout the entire season, I would say they're top 5 at the very least, if not top 3, because Liverpool, of course. I mean, they beat Liverpool. They beat them on penalties, but they beat arguably the team of the season. I have to say that Liverpool have been phenomenal. I mean, Barcelona had their own slump. Unfortunately, Liverpool are kind of going through their own little slump now, but Barcelona and Liverpool have been fighting for that top spot of the best team, and PSG is right up there with them. And that's kind of why I think that they are going to beat Aston Villa. I think it's going to be a very tough challenge, a lot closer than everybody thinks. I can even see them going all the way to extra time. But I think in extra time is when PSG will just take advantage of it and actually ultimately beat them. I mean, yeah, I'm going to go for a PSG victory. And the first leg, I don't know who's at their home stadium for either leg, but for the leg at Aston Villa, I think it's going to be a draw. I think it'll be 1-1, and then at PSG's home stadium, I think they'll get the job. I think they'll get the job done, and it'll be 2-1 scoreline to PSG. I think PSG will get the victory, and on that, of course, that be 3-2. It's a lot less high scoring than I expected, but I think they both have very solid defenses that can stop the other attack. But that's just my opinion. I can easily see more goals. Moving on to the third game, I will finally talk about the potential semifinalists of course. I mean, I'm saying that Barcelona are going to go through. Hopefully they do. I would love to see them make a semifinal. It's been too many years. Too many years to count. I mean, of course, last time it was not so great for us, but stop talking about Barcelona. Let's move on to the game. I'm talking about Inter Milan versus Bayern Munich. Actually, I have a Bayern Munich kit, but it's fine. Inter Milan versus Bayern Munich. It's a very, very close match. I think this is the closest match out of all four. I can easily see either or going through, and they're both going to go toe to toe. I just know for a fact it's one of the best defenses in all of Europe, if not the entire world, versus a Bayern Munich side that has the likes of Harry Kane, Michael Olise, and of course Jamal Musiala, and of course the absolute control of the midfield by Joshua Kimmich. And not to mention, of course, yes, they have their own injury crises, and a few players that unfortunately won't be able to make it. I mean, I believe Dado Upamecano will be able to play at least one of the games. I'm not entirely sure about that. I forgot to check up a little bit more on those injuries. But Inter Milan versus Bayern Munich. Bayern won their game on Friday, so they do have one more day of rest because Inter Milan actually tied 2-2 away from home as well, but they did tie in the league, which makes it a little bit stressful as Napoli could potentially like chase them down to try to win the Scudetto. But Bayern Munich are kind of running away with it up against Bayer Leverkusen, who are in second place in the Bundesliga. So it kind of depends who's going to take this competition a little bit more seriously. You can argue that Bayern Munich might take it a little more seriously, but they are under a new manager who's rather unexperienced at the managerial level. Vincent Kompany, I honestly respect him a lot. He won a lot with Man City as a player, as a captain, and so much. But as a manager, honestly, I haven't really rated him that much. I mean, he got relegated with Burnley in the Premier League and somehow got a Bayern Munich job. But he's been doing well, and he could potentially win a Bundesliga title and possibly a Champions League if everything goes well. But with that being said, Inter Milan have been absolutely firing, and in the Champions League, I believe they finished in the top 8, that's for sure. I think they only conceded one goal, which was a penalty. They conceded one goal in the league phase and then one goal against Feyenoord across the two legs. So that's 2 goals, and I believe one of them was a penalty. So their defense, I think they are the best defense in all of Europe, hands down. And it's going to be very difficult for Bayern Munich to break through that. But then again, when it comes to offense, I don't really see it there with Inter Milan, at least in my opinion. I don't see many goals coming from an Inter Milan, at least this Inter Milan side. I'm not saying that that's not good, because defense wins championships, everybody knows that. But it's going to be a difficult choice, and of course, either team would be a huge challenge for my potential semi-finalist, which would be Barcelona. But I think I have to go with Inter Milan. The main thing about them, it's just their defense. I think their defense is going to win them this tie. And Bayern Munich, again, the inexperience of Vincent Kompany. I'm not saying that this will be the reason. I just think there's potential reasons such as the inexperience of Vincent Kompany, and of course their injury crisis. And just I feel like Bayern isn't fully there. They can pop up, but I don't think they're not as strong as they can be. I feel like maybe next season they will definitely mount a even harder shout to winning the Champions League title. And even this season they have a chance. But the way that I see it, I personally think Inter Milan is going to go through, and it's not going to be easy for either team. And honestly, I think they're going to go all the way to penalties. I would love to see a penalty shootout between these two teams. It's going to be tough. It's very much going to be tough for them. And I think it's ultimately going to come down to their injuries. I think their injuries are really going to hinder them just because of the timing of it. But anyways, let's move on to the last game. So I saved this game for last. Of course, it is Real Madrid versus Arsenal. I saved this game for last mostly because I know I'm a Barca fan, so you guys are most likely going to expect me to say Arsenal to go through. But I still don't know. Honestly, even as I'm recording, I don't know who I'm going to choose because this is a very difficult decision. I mean, as good as Real Madrid are in this competition and as historic as they are, I mean, they've won 15 championships of the Champions League and Arsenal has not. But if you look on the historical side of it as well, they've only faced each other once in recent history, at least I can remember. Obviously, I didn't watch it, but it was Real Madrid versus Arsenal in 2006, and I think it was just one goal scored across 2 legs because one of the legs finished off 0-0 or 0-0, and Thierry Henry was the one who scored the goal for Arsenal, which allowed them to go through, and they eventually made it all the way to the finals, where unfortunately they lost. But anyways, it's still a very difficult decision to make because Real Madrid, they have a star-studded squad, but they're not meshing well as a team. Kylian Mbappe, as great a form as he's running in right now, it's still difficult for Vinicius and Mbappe to have a very good game. Not to mention Bellingham, who's also doing his own thing, Rodrigo, who also is an amazing player, but sometimes he's not on it. And you've seen it this season where he's not fully in fine form. He's trying to find it. Sometimes he grabs an amazing goal, sometimes he just goes missing. And then you have the likes of Arsenal, who are going through their own injury crisis. I mean, Kai Havertz is out for a long time. Saka's just coming back. I think he's fit for both legs. Hopefully he is. I know he just got back, even scored on his return, which was amazing for him and amazing for the Arsenal side. But I mean, if they're still relying on the likes of Mikel Merino up top, it's going to be difficult. I mean, as leaky as Real Madrid have been defense, I mean, just look at the Real Sociedad game if you want to talk about, some defensive mistakes. But it's going to be difficult for both sides to try to progress. It's going to be much closer than everybody thinks. I could see penalties, but honestly, I don't think it's going to go that far. I genuinely do think it will be settled in regular time, but it's probably going to be a 1, maybe 2 goal margin. But I'm sticking with the 1 goal margin. I'm going to go so difficult. And again, I don't remember who was the first leg at home, but I'm going to say a 2-2 draw at the Emirates and a 1-0 victory for Real Madrid at the very end. Yeah, 1-0 victory for Real Madrid. It's going to end 3-2. Again, very similar to another prediction that I had of the other game, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. But yeah. Anyways, those are my predictions. I know I may have, gotten some of you mad, may have eliminated your favorite team. Of course, I may be biased. You may call me biased. And of course I am. I know that I am. I'm a Barcelona fan. Of course, that's always going to be something that I hold, like, in my head and my heart and in all my decision making. But that's just basically what I think. All the teams that I have progressing and the semifinals that I have, it would be very interesting regardless of any result. And I think they're all very good games to watch out for. Of course, I'm going to be watching my team play up against Dortmund, but of course I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on the others, because it impacts us, but it's very good games. I know for a fact they're going to be very hard-fought games, and it's going to be tough. And I mean, there could be blowouts, but I don't really see that happening. But I do have PSG and Real Madrid facing the semifinals, and on the other side you have Barcelona facing Inter Milan. It's going to be difficult, and semifinals are going to be super interesting if that's what happens, and even if it doesn't happen. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'll catch you later. Thanks.